When you picture ancient Rome, what do you see? Majestic gladiators, triumphant emperors, colosseums gleaming under a Mediterranean sun? Perhaps toga-clad philosophers debating in marbled forums? Well, buckle up, because the real ancient Rome, for 99% of its citizens, was a living nightmare. Forget the cinematic grandeur. In this video, we're going to put you in the shoes of an average Roman, and I guarantee you wouldn't survive 24 hours. From the moment you woke up to the moment you tried and likely failed to sleep, your senses would be assaulted by filth, your life constantly threatened by disease and crime, and your dignity stripped away by a brutal, unforgiving society. Get ready to discover the Rome that history textbooks conveniently gloss over. Let's start with your morning. You wake up, not in some opulent villa, but in a cramped multi-story apartment building called an insula. Think of it as a medieval slum skyscraper, poorly constructed, prone to collapse, and as you're about to discover, absolutely reeking. Your bed? Probably a straw mattress crawling with fleas and lice. As you rub the sleep from your eyes, the first thing that hits you isn't the smell of fresh bread. It's the overpowering stench of human waste. Why? Because the Roman sanitation system, while impressive in theory, was utterly dysfunctional for the common people. Most insulae didn't have toilets, so where did everyone go? Directly into pots and chamberlain, which were then simply emptied into the streets below. That's right. Every morning, you'd navigate streets literally slick with human excrement, discarded food, and animal waste. And it wasn't just chamber pots. Many insulae also had open sewage chutes that would dump directly onto passers-by without warning. Imagine dodging a cascade of human waste just to get to work. Oh, and those beautiful Roman baths? They were communal, rarely clean to modern standards, and breeding grounds for every imaginable disease. You thought you knew ancient hygiene? Think again. Now you've survived the gauntlet of human waste, but your day is just beginning. Your commute is a chaotic, dangerous nightmare. Roman streets were a free-for-all of carts, animals, and jostling crowds. There were no sidewalks as we know them, and crossing the street meant risking being run over by a speeding cart. But vehicular manslaughter was the least of your worries. Crime in ancient Rome was rampant and brutal. With no effective police force, pickpockets, muggers, and violent gangs roamed freely. If you were unlucky enough to carry anything valuable, you were a target. If you were a woman, walking alone was an invitation for assault. And justice? Forget about it. Unless you were wealthy and influential, reporting a crime was often useless and could even put you in more danger. The law was applied very differently, depending on your social status. A crime against a wealthy patrician might be investigated. A crime against you, a common plebeian, your bad luck. You might stumble upon a fresh murder scene or witness a public execution, a common Roman spectacle. Your nerves would be frayed before noon. Midday approaches and you're probably starving. But what would you eat? And more importantly, what would you drink? Forget clean bottled water. The famous Roman aqueducts brought water to the city, but much of it flowed through lead pipes, slowly poisoning the population. Even if you avoided the lead, the water was often contaminated with waste. So, most Romans drank wine, usually diluted, or a fermented vinegar drink called posca. Your food would be equally dubious. Bread, olives, cheap vegetables. Meat was a luxury. But the real danger wasn't just the lack of nutrition, it was the preparation. Food stalls were unsanitary, flies buzzed everywhere, and food poisoning was incredibly common. Refrigeration didn't exist, so food quickly spoiled. And let's not forget the sheer amount of lead used in Roman cooking. Lead pots, lead-sweetened wine. You were essentially slowly poisoning yourself with every meal, a silent killer disguised as dinner. You'd be lucky to get through a meal without a bout of stomach cramps or worse. For the average Roman, life was a constant, grueling struggle for survival. You weren't a senator or a poet. You were a laborer, a small shopkeeper, a craftsman. Your work was physically demanding, your hours long, and your pay barely enough to live on. A single bad harvest, a sudden illness, or a simple injury could push you into destitution or even slavery. Yes, slavery. It was a pervasive, brutal reality of Roman life. Anyone could fall into slavery through debt, capture, or being born into it. And if you weren't a slave, you probably lived in constant fear of becoming one. Imagine working yourself to the bone, knowing that one wrong move, one piece of bad luck, could strip you of your freedom, your family, your very identity. Your body would be constantly aching, your mind filled with worry, and your spirit ground down by the relentless demands of simply staying alive. And if you happened to be a gladiator, you wouldn't even last the 24 hours to begin with. As night falls, the true horror of ancient Rome descends. The streets, already dangerous by day, become death traps. There's no street lighting, save for a few torches carried by the wealthy. The city plunged into utter darkness, perfect for criminals. The gangs you dodged by day now rule the streets. Mugging, assault, and murder were incredibly common after dark. You wouldn't dare step outside without a bodyguard if you could afford one, and even then, safety wasn't guaranteed. Sleeping in your insula wasn't much better. Fires were a constant, terrifying threat. These poorly built wooden structures, lit by open flames and packed with people, burned down with alarming regularity. If you heard the cry of fire, your chances of escape were slim. You'd likely be trapped, crushed in a stampede, or suffocated by smoke. Even if you survived the fire, your meager possessions would be gone, and you'd be homeless, thrown into the brutal streets once more. The idea of a restful night's sleep? A fantasy. So there you have it. 24 hours in ancient Rome. You've navigated streets of human waste, dodged criminals, ingested lead, fought off disease, endured grueling labor, and survived the terrifying darkness of night. You'd be physically exhausted, mentally traumatized, probably sick, and quite possibly injured. The sheer accumulation of filth, danger, and systemic brutality would break most modern people in mere hours. The grand Roman Empire, with its legions and its laws, was built on the backs of people living lives of unimaginable hardship. It's a stark reminder that history is rarely as glamorous as the movies make it out to be. So next time you romanticize the past, remember the real price of Roman glory. And maybe, just maybe, be a little more grateful for modern plumbing. This dive into the dark reality of history shocked you. Hit that subscribe button for more untold stories that textbooks leave out. And tell us in the comments, what modern convenience would you miss most in ancient Rome?